Hi, beautiful people. It is your girl, Shonna Etienne with the Virtual Book Club. And today we are starting a new book. I am excited about this book. The print is a little small, so I have to use my reading glasses. Oh, my age is catching up with me. But nonetheless, the print is a little small, so I have to use my reading glasses before I can really engage with you all. But nonetheless, this book is going to be powerful. I can promise you that. So if you are a mother or a father of a black boy, and that includes our biracial butterflies, or I guess butterflies is not for the boys, right? So I guess our biracial studs, right? This video is for you as well. Now, today is only the first day of this book. It's the first day. So I imagine you won't get too much into your emotions and your feelings today. But I promise you, you will get into your emotions and your feelings. And that's okay. As long as we listen for critical analysis and not because we're becoming reactive, because instead of us listening to it to see what we can apply, we become reactive because we feel some kind of way. I will have to say this to everyone before we get started. I don't know you, most of you, and you all don't know me. So, whatever I am going to share with you guys with my critical analysis of this book, it is not an insult to anyone personally. So, take those emotions and contain them. I am a mother of two black boys as well, and I am making mistakes as well. And we are not able to fix anything we are not aware of. So my message to all of you guys is to eat the meat and throw out the bones. But nonetheless, consider what is being said because we have to save our black boys because our black men are endangered species, simply put. So, hey, Nick, thank you for joining. Hello, Erica, Natalie, Charles. Hey, Malik, Zanara, Vanessa. Oh my God, you guys are on. So, it's ready for us to get going. Just so you guys can know, we are now going over countering the conspiracy to destroy black boys. This is by another famous black scholar who is very deep in his work. He has written tons and tons and tons of books. He is an expert when it relates to black boys. I know we have other scholars, especially our more contemporary scholars, who have done great work when it relates to black boys, but he is the father of that work. Okay, I promise you, he is the father of that work, or at least one of the fathers of that work. So when you hear all these people out here and they're speaking about black boys and being railroaded and being placed in the school to prison pipeline, they got much of their works from this brother right here. Okay, so we're not gonna celebrate and idolize personalities. We are going to take the information to transform the lives of our sons. So I think we are all in agreement of that. Good night, Natalie. How are you? Hey, Tina. Hey, Charles. Let's get going. Today is only chapter one. We are going to take this slow, slow. Chapter two is going to be even slower because it's just so much stuff that I had to put this book down and I had to give myself a whooping. And I've done a great job. Well, at least I thought I did a great job with my boys. I am learning that I have some work to do. So I keep the belt right beside me so I can whip myself. I can whip myself for all the things I'm doing wrong. Okay, so let's get going. The conspiracy to destroy black boys. Genocide. Let's start off first by defining what genocide is. The deliberate and systematic destruction of racial, political, or cultural group. The deliberate, meaning done on purpose, and systematic. It is within systems, meaning there are laws and policies in place that continue the act of genocide without somebody having to literally pick up a gun and kill you, put a noose around your neck and lynch you. When it's systematic, it no longer requires one individual person or persons to commit the act. It is well oiled. It goes on its own by itself. So that's what he's defining genocide to be: the deliberate and systematic destruction of a racial, political, or cultural group. To use the word conspiracy to describe certain aspects of our society is a strong indictment against the social fabric of this country. So Dr. Jawanza Kunjufu has been asked, who are the conspirators? Why are you making a statement such as conspiracy? Where is the plot? What are the challenges? Where's the meeting? Where did it take place? And what he says is, when he hears this stuff, he simply just smiles because he's educated under Neely Fuller. And what he's saying is, until you understand, I use this statement all the time because those of us who follow the compensatory book written by Neely Fuller, we understand what white supremacy is and what it looks like. It's not what people out here are saying. It's greater than that. And until you study it under a scholarly lens, you will not understand it. But many of us who go by Dr. Neely Fuller, we understand white supremacy. And Dr. Neely Fuller says, until you understand white supremacy, everything else will confuse you. Everything else will confuse you until you understand it. So when we out here arguing and debating over stuff without having the knowledge of what white supremacy truly is, we are all confused. We all debating stuff that further confuses each other. And he's saying, until you understand it, everything else that you know or you thought you knew is going to confuse you. So he goes on, he talks about race annihilation. Race annihilation. And he breaks it down this way. Men initiate the act of reproduction. Men initiate the act of reproduction. Therefore, if a population is fearful of its genetic annihilation, it has to focus only on the men of the potentially annihilating population. Why? Why the men? Why the men? So many people would say this is BS. I don't agree with that. I don't believe that. I'm so tired of hearing about this. But let's really break it down. Let's really break it down. If they don't fear race annihilation, first of all, let's talk about race. We agree that there's only one true race, right? Which is the human race. And what I mean by that is humans, we have blood, we bleed, we have a heart that is required to work to stay alive. We have a brain that is required to function so that we can move our body, we can think critically. We all agree that those are the aspects of being human. We all agree with that. Race is a social construct. So the question we must ask ourselves is, who constructed race and why? Why was race constructed? Who constructed it and why? Why? Because once we understand why it was constructed, then we'll understand the systems that are in place. Then we'll understand why, after so many years of America being utilized for capital gain and all this other nonsense through the institution of slavery and everything else, until we truly understand that, we won't understand why race was constructed. So we all are in agreement that race was developed, came out for a reason. We know that until President Barack Obama, this country has been ran by white men. White men. We know that. So we have to start to ask our questions, why? We know that there is a small number of the population that controls 70 to 80% of the wealth on this earth. And that population primarily is white. We got to ask ourselves, why? Why? So when we talk about race annihilation, there's a benefit to some for keeping the race pure. And I'm talking about their race. I'm not talking about, we know why they don't want to mix with us. We understand that. But There's a reason why they want to keep their race uninterrupted and pure. So when we talk about race annihilation, it is the man. It is the man that will dominate the race and annihilate it. So they're always going to go after the source. They're going to go after the source. All right. So what he breaks it down is he said, you put an African man with an African woman, what will they produce? An African child. If you put an African man with a European woman, what would they produce? An African child. If you put a European man with an African woman, what would they produce? An African child. If you put a European man with a European woman, what would they produce? Aha, a European child. Let me put it this way, since people don't like those kind of things. They get like, all up in their feelings. If you put an African man with the African woman, you're going to get a dominant gene. If you put a European man with the African woman, you're going to get a dominated gene. If you put a African man with a European woman, you're going to get a dominant gene. If you put a European man with a European woman, you're going to get a recessive gene. So basically, the purpose of putting laws into place that keep us from mixing, remember, you couldn't have interracial children back in the days. That was a law, wasn't allowed. If a slave master had children with a slave, what happened to those children? What happened to those children? Were they free, or were they also slave children? Were they also sold off? You got to think about these things. And that's what he talks about. He says a racist has no conscience. A racist has no conscience or memory and is in a classic state of denial. Therefore, I spend no time trying to trigger a racist consciousness. What is he talking about? What is he talking about? I'm going to try to do this about these glasses, even though my eyes cannot focus without these glasses. It's just annoying because they're reading glasses. They're not distance glasses. But when he says he spends no time triggering a racist consciousness, the reason why this book is directed, this book club for today is directed to our mothers and our fathers of Black boys, is because we're not spending our time trying to get anybody else who does not have a Black boy, who believes that there should not be any race mixing, who believes that division is good when it comes to keeping their races pure, whatever the case is. When it comes from the white population, we're not going to waste our time with any racist people, because racist people don't have a consciousness. They don't. They suffer from cognitive dissonance. They have no consciousness. So we're not going to waste our time trying to educate a racist on their racist ways. It's a waste of time. We are going to do what we need to do as mothers and fathers of Black boys in order for us to counter the conspiracy to destroy our Black boys. And I titled this, Are You a Co-Conspirator? Because half of us don't even know that we are contributing to the destruction of our Black boys. Let me say that again. Half of us don't even realize that we are contributing to the destruction of our Black boys. And when we get into chapter 2 of this book, he starts to break it down to a T as it relates to the way we discipline our boys, as it relates, mothers, to how we speak to our boys. Mothers, right? So we don't really know when we're being emasculated. You see, we think we just being a disciplinarian, a mother, got to set the rules. We don't understand how some of our ways emasculate our boys. We have been co-conspirators, and we don't even realize it. Fathers, when you are not present in the home, I don't care if you at work, when you are not engaging with your boys, when you are not disciplining your boys, when you are not structuring your boys, when you are not showing your boys how to be a man through not only your actions, but your conversations with them, you are a co-conspirator to their destruction. Okay? Second, in any conspiracy, there would be two major players, active and passive. Two major players when it comes to conspiracy, active and passive. The active co-conspirators, some are overt racist and others are covert and participate through institutions. What do we mean by that? So we already know what the overt ones are, right? Those are the ones that outright racist, don't like you, going to destroy you no matter what. We already know what overt racism looks like. But the problem is, too many of us don't understand, nor are we able to identify covert racism until it's smack dead in our face. And here's how it works, co-conspirators. Yes, I'm calling some of y'all co-conspirators because you're not aware. You're not aware, and it's no fault to you because what you don't know is what you don't know. That's what ignorance is. And people get their panties in a bunch when they are their underwears in a bunch when they hear the word ignorant. Listen, there are certain areas I'm ignorant too. Because ignorant means simply not knowing, lacking the knowledge. So what you don't know, you don't know. So some of you guys don't even realize that you are entertaining the conspirators. You are co-conspirators. You don't even realize it. So what is a covert racist? What is a covert racist? It's usually through the institutions. I'm going to give you a perfect example that he gives. I think it's perfect. He said, these liberals, he calls them co-conspirators. These liberals I meet on talk shows who say, I didn't take your people from Africa. I'm struggling in America just like you. Can't we all just get along? And the reason why they are conspirators as well is because they are aware of the system. They are aware of how policies and laws have been developed and passed that hurt certain populations of people, specifically our Black boys and our Black men. They are aware of it. But instead of them dismantling that system, they feel that they don't carry any of that burden and that responsibility because I'm struggling in America just like you. We are the same. But the difference is when we're paired up against each other, and the facts are I have more credentials, more experience, more education than you, but you get the job and I don't, and we are friends and we know of the same job and we went on the same interview, do you say, why did you choose me as opposed to Shonna? Shonna is highly educated, more than I am. Shonna has more experience than I do. Shonna knows the ins and outs of this job. She's been working this field for X amount of years. She's better fit and better qualified. Why did you choose me? So when you don't make that statement, when you don't challenge the system, when you don't pull back and say, whoa, this is not right, I'm not accepting it, because truth of the matter is you're being discriminatory. When you don't call it out for what it is, you are also a conspirator. So what would make us a co-conspirator? What will make us a co-conspirator is when we vote on laws, policies, and we support organizations, politicians, lobbyists, and everybody else who are conspirators, whether they're passive or active. When we support these things, we become co-conspirators. Because we're not making our own demands. We're not sitting back and we're not analyzing the educational laws, the penal system laws. We're not fighting against them. You know, we're not being specific about what we're asking for. So therefore, many of us have become co-conspirators. We hold in our hands with the liberals. And we just think that they got our heart. They got our best interests at heart. But the truth of the matter is, if it all boils down to your survival and their survival, and they know you deserve it, they're always going to benefit. They're going to take theirs over you. And that's what makes them a conspirator as well, just a passive one. Taking advantage of a situation, whether in employment, housing, or other opportunities, is playing a passive role in the conspiracy and perpetuates institutional racism. Institutional racism. So institutional racism can be seen in our justice system. It can be seen in the housing system, the housing laws. It can be seen in our educational system. It can be seen in our medical system. right? Institutional. Institutional racism, when you have policies, laws, and all these other things that hurt people. You don't need to be a racist to participate in institutional racism. And that's very important to know that. The passive conspirators are African Americans. Check this out. The passive conspirators are African Americans who participate via their miseducation. Now, y'all just know we finished reading Dr. Carter G. Woodson's book about the miseducation of the Black woman and the Black man, right? So we have become co-conspirators because of our miseducation, our self-hatred, and our apathy. Our self-hatred and our apathy. This group consists of African American males. Check this out, guys. You're going to get in your feelings. You're going to get in your feelings. You're going to get in your feelings. This group consists of African American males who do not raise their children. Your miseducation, your self-hatred is the reason you don't raise your children. Your self-hatred, hatred of yourself. Let me tell you something. Your children, whether you want to claim them or not, is an image of you. It is a reflection of you. And when you abandon your children, it's because there's things within you hate. And that child brings into your realization everything about you that you hate. And you have become a co-conspirator with the system when you fail to raise your children. And see, I'm even talking to those men who are present in the home, but they are not raising their children. I'm even talking to you. Because a lot of men, they just think because they're in the home, they're present in the home, and they're paying bills, they are doing their job. No, you're not. No, you're not. Because as you are emotionally disconnected, as you are emotionally unavailable, as you hanging out with your boys and sometimes physically unavailable, your sons are hurting. Your sons are trying to figure out what it means to be a man. So you're basically teaching them, as long as you pay your bills, you don't have to be home. As long as you pay the bills, you don't have to participate in anything in the school. You don't have to show up to the sports games. You don't have to teach your child how to play the sports. You don't have to show them how to change a tire, how to change oil, how to put up a picture, how to help around the house. You don't have to teach him any of that. You don't have to teach him how to wash his private parts, how to wash under his arms, when to wear deodorant, how to shave his beard, how to keep his hair maned, how to keep it intact. You don't have to teach him any of that if you're paying the bills. That's pretty much what you are telling your son. That's not raising your son, just paying the bills, but yet you're absent. So when your son starts to screw up in life, you don't want to have anything to do with him. You pull back, or you want to punch him, or you want to degrade him, or better yet, you kick him out of your house, but you did not prepare him for survival. You turned your son against you. You set him up for failure. You set him up for unemployment. You set him up for multiple children with multiple women. You set him up for prison because you failed to do your part. Co-conspirators are also African American women who have double standards for their children. Double standards for their children, meaning they treat their daughters different than their sons. They have lower expectations for their sons than their daughters, or the saying, as the saying goes, you raise your daughters and you love your sons, right? You love your sons and you raise your daughters. What does that mean? Your son ain't got to do nothing. Your son ain't got to be responsible. Your son don't have to clean. Your son don't have to cook. Your son can stay out at all types of hours in the night and don't have to come home. But your daughter has to cook, your daughter has to clean, your daughter has to have good grades, your daughter cannot be in trouble, your daughter gets sheltered. The double standards. The double standards. So why is that setting your child up for failure? We have so many women raising their boys in that manner. Raising their boys with lower expectations. Not setting the bar high for their sons. And then these people grow up and they're irresponsible fathers, they're irresponsible husbands, or they even become a husband. They're irresponsible employees, they're underpaid, they're underemployed, and some unemployed. They have a relationship with the prison system. They can't keep a job. They don't know how to manage a checking account, a bank account, don't know how to invest, and damn sure can't lead a family. We have become co-conspirators. This group includes African American educators. I'm talking to you, teachers. I'm talking to y'all. The African American educators who have lowered their expectations for African American children, specifically the male child. Lowering the expectation. His work is sloppy as HE double hockey sticks, but yet you don't make him erase his homework and do it over. You don't make him practice on his penmanship. You don't develop his fine motor skills. You let him slide because boys just learn differently. So this message is for you too. Because you see, when we are African American educators, we must know that we cannot slack on our children. We got to push them and we got to excel. And that goes beyond education. That goes beyond the actual lecture or the lesson. That goes with, even though you are his teacher or her teacher, you are their mentor. You are their second parent when they are not available. You are their disciplinarian. But so many of us give up on that role because they feel like, listen, that starts at home. If their parents ain't doing it, it ain't my job to do it. If he can't keep still, send him out. And you push him on to get an IEP. You push him out to get classified, not realizing what you're setting him up for. And then you try to convince others of your decision being right, even though you know if it was your own child, you wouldn't even allow it. You wouldn't even tolerate it. You too are a co-conspirator. It also includes those that sell drugs and commit murders. He says commit murders, but I'm going to say those who sell drugs, commit murders and crimes. You too are co-conspirators. If you're on a corner and you selling drugs and you got these young innocent boys watching you, you have set an example, because half of them, their fathers ain't in the home. And if their fathers are in the home, they're on drugs too, or they're emotionally unavailable. So who do our black boys have to look up to? Who? We complain about the system. We want to cry out racism, and we don't realize that we are co-conspirators with the system in itself because we lack consciousness. We don't wake up with a legacy-focused mindset. What do I mean when I say a legacy-focused mindset? We don't wake up thinking about what's going to happen, not only for our current generation, but their children and their children's children. We don't wake up planning ahead. We don't wake up educating this generation so that we can set the foundation for the next generation and the following generation. And as the line goes down, we don't wake up legacy-focused. We don't wake up legacy-centered. We wake up with a selfish mind. We send our kids off to school and just want to leave it to the school and don't want to do it home. We selling drugs on the street and don't even think about the people that we are hurting, whether we are selling to them or we're just simply witnessing, we have them witnessing us selling drugs. We don't think about it. We glamorize prison. We glamorize arrest. We glamorize guns, smoking weed, wet, Molly. We glamorize these things. Every last thing that's set up to destroy our black males because we lack consciousness. We don't walk out of our doors with a love of self, with a love of our people, with empathy. We walk out our doors with self-hatred and we don't even know it because we lack consciousness. We walk out our doors with apathy, unable to feel the pain for someone else, unable to understand someone else's pain and someone else's struggle, unable to identify someone else's emotions and try to offer love and comfort instead. We are co-conspirators to our demise. And then we're mad at each other. The black man is fighting the black woman. The black man and black woman is fighting the black business owners, the black doctors, the black lawyers, the black teachers. We are all a hot mess. Hot mess. And the reason why we are co-conspirators is because the system no longer has to lynch us. The system no longer has to shut their doors in our faces. The system no longer has to put out signs that says for white only, because we are doing it to ourselves. We are doing it to ourselves because of self-hatred. Because if you don't love yourself, there's no way in God's green earth can you love the man or the woman that looks like you. We're walking around with so much negative energy on us, we don't even realize it. And even the people that say they positive are negative people, because they will walk past their brother and sister in need and won't do anything to help them. Are they operating out of their self-greed and their selfishness, and then they want everyone's support for it, but they never in turn do something for the next person? Everything is for their own desires. And that's what makes us co-conspirators. I expect nothing less from African Americans than for them to disavow from consciously or unconsciously participating in their own genocide. Remember what we said genocide is. You remember what we said genocide is, the deliberate and systematic destruction of a racial, political, or cultural group. So he's saying, I expect nothing less from African Americans, nothing less than for them to disavow, than for them to stop, than for them to break that destructive covenant that they have, whether it's conscious or unconscious, from participating in their own genocide, and to actively become involved in the liberation of their own people. To actively, that's the key word. That's the end of chapter 1. To actively, to actively become involved of the liberation of their own people. Actively. What are you doing daily? What are you doing daily for the liberation of your people? Yeah, cool, whatever. We share some videos on Facebook. I hope y'all sharing this video. I hope y'all hit the share button. Right? I don't get paid for doing this. I don't come on a book club and sell y'all nothing. And Lord knows I got a lot to sell. I don't sell you anything. Right? What are you actively doing? No matter how big or small, what are you actively doing? Listen, a lot of people that call my practice for counseling because they found a counseling organization that is Black, that is professional, that has system structures, policies and procedures that they like, that is clean, that is organized, that has a system from the very beginning all the way out to the day they discharge from my practice. When they come to us, a lot of them, not all of them, a lot of them don't even have health insurance. They don't even have health insurance. But instead of closing the door on every last one of those that call, we develop policies and procedures, financial policies and procedures to be able to assist them. So you're going to invest in something for your treatment. You're going to invest in something. But will it break your pockets? No. You're going to make a financial commitment to your transformation in your health. But we promise we'll work with you and hold your hands. We'll promise we'll get you from A to B. And then if you get to B, we'll get you from B to C. We ain't going to promise you from A to Z because that's on you. But to work it. You got a church. You need me to come to talk to the women of your church? I get them all the time. I come out and I do it. Sometimes I don't get anything. I come out and I do it. You got women that you mentor that's all crack, heroin, drugs. You need somebody to talk to them? Come out and I do it. Because I believe in liberating my people. I believe in liberating my people. What are you actively doing? What are you actively doing to liberate your sons and your daughters from this destructive system? What are you doing to change their mindset, to change their behavior? Because if we all do it, we'll start to see our community shift. If we all do it, we'll start to see our nation within the nation. I'm not talking about the nation of America. I'm talking about our nation within the nation. We would start to see it shift if we all do it. But we got to do it collectively. And it's not easy. I swear I want to quit every day. I want to walk away every day because people are freaking sick. I'm like, oh no, you need help. You need counseling. You don't need my conversation. You need counseling. But I stay in it because I believe in liberating our children. So we have to stop being co-conspirators with this system that is designed to destroy our Black males. So that's what we're going to do when we get into this. We're going to talk about everything. We're going to talk about everything. He talks about tracking the kids. Well, he called it tracking because this book is older. And it was in the 80s when he originally written it. So tracking was a relevant term. But now what it is, whether you understand it or not, is called the IEP. You best to believe it. The new tracking is an IEP, aka special education. That's the new tracking. But we're going to examine all of that and how we can start doing little things right now to fix it. I'll give you a little nugget and I'm out. Little things such as women, ladies, if you scream at your sons all the time because they're not listening and you're so frustrated and they won't keep still, stop it now. Stop it now. We're going to work at a different way of handling them. Because once you understand how they're wired, biochemically wired, science is behind it. Once you understand that, then you can start doing things that will be effective. Because screaming at loud levels doesn't work for his ears. The way his ears and his eardrum is set up doesn't work that way. But we're going to talk about that more. All right, guys. Oh, wow. Who's Jean? Hi, Jean. How's Sakia? Miss you. So Jean is saying a response is needed right away, deprogramming our mind from their lies. Willie Lynch is the blueprint of our self-destruction, man. You preaching. Joyce, hey, Joyce. Joyce is saying Berkeley in the house. Yes, baby. Wow. Truth be told, she's great. Wake up, people. I love you, Joyce. I will see you guys all tomorrow at 9:00 p.m. We are going to go over section 2, but chapter 2, which is infancy to 9 years. Infancy to 9 years old. That is a very deep chapter. So we're only going to break it down in little segments because, baby, I got a 4-year-old. And even though my 13-year-old boy is genius, okay? The 13-year-old is in high school. He won't be 14 to April. He's in high school. He's in geometry honors, the only 13-year-old in that class, the only freshman in that class, geometry honors. So I know I did something right, but I had a lot of headache raising him in the school system when he was in a public school system, and they classified him. They classified my son, even though they wrote other health impairment. Once he had that IEP, they treated him like hell. They called the cops on him when he was in kindergarten. Just to give you an idea, sisters and brothers, that I know what I'm talking about. I fought those people tooth and nail. And if it wasn't for my education, if it wasn't for my experience, if it wasn't for my knowledge, and if it wasn't for the fact that I know the system inside and out, if it wasn't for those things, my son would have been screwed. They put my son out of district for 3 years before I fought it, and then I was ready to submit the lawsuit. and they brought him back in. And when they brought him back in, from the minute he came back into the district, they screwed him every moment, but they couldn't get to his mind. They didn't understand how he was so young and so brilliant because of some of the things I did in the house that was right. So the things that he talks about in his book, I've done 90% of them. But sometimes it's only the 10% that matters. Sometimes it's only the 10% that can destroy your son. So I realized that I have contributed, not by myself. I can't talk about nobody else's contribution. I can only talk about my own that I have done, that I have to take ownership of. I have to bring myself into a position of accountability. And when I've learned to do my research on Black boys and how they are developed, I realize where I have gone wrong. And you gotta be okay with admitting that stuff, ladies and gentlemen. So tomorrow we're gonna really go through that. We're gonna really go through that. And this is not an insult because we do the best we can. But I also know that we can do better. I can do better. And I'm sure you guys too. I'll speak to you all tomorrow. I love you guys. Have a blessed night.